get cracking. So thanks very much for attending this session on LinkedIn content strategy. And this is part one of a three-step process. So this is a planning webinar. Right, let me get to my slides this time. So I'm going to lose the chat because of the way I'm set up today. So please ask questions and I'll come back to them later. Now Siri is talking to me. There we go. Great. So hopefully you can see my slides. If there's any problems, like I said, I haven't got the chat in front of me, so I'll keep going, but I will come and review them. So thanks very much for attending. Like I said, this is part of a three-part session. This session's all about planning. So it's really about those people that are stuck with your content. You've got no idea what to post, or you get overwhelmed, confused, the imposter syndrome kicks in and you're not sure. So, and I'm talking LinkedIn, but really this applies to any of your social media and any of your email marketing and even your website and blogs. So what we're going through today can help you across the marketing, online marketing place. So I'm going to be talking about planning, the types of content you can share to help with planning and repurposing some of your existing content, because that's often the easiest place to start. So I'm Jo Saunders. I've been specializing in LinkedIn for the last 11 or so years now. I've been recognized for my expertise by being named the #2 LinkedIn expert in Asia Pacific. I'm currently waiting to hear some social media award results around LinkedIn as well. And I've published the books, Get Good or Get Off, a guide to getting it right in social media, which is all about strategy, which starts with planning. And content is a big, big part of that. Now you can use content to stand out and connect with your ideal clients. And I know a lot of people get overwhelmed by content, but really content is just sharing your voice. It's sharing what's going on in your world. It's being of service to your ideal clients and adding value so that they understand where you fit in the world. And the stages of planning, like I said, of content, sorry, you've got the planning stage, which is what we're talking about today. The next session, which I'm running at 10:30, so in an hour and a half's time, is about producing content. So I'm going to go through how to create your content, particularly the text piece of content. And then you've got the publishing and repurposing. So that's the workshop I'm running at 12:30 today. And that's about publishing on LinkedIn. And promotion is part of that, but also promotion is a longer game of promoting your sort of long form content. So that's going to be talked about this afternoon. So content strategy. So if you think about what it is you do, what problem do you solve? Where do your ideal clients hang out? Which platforms are they using? And which ones do you actually like to use? And who they are. So a bit about what that persona looks like. What problems do they have? What's their geographics, demographics, all those sorts of things. And also, how often do you actually think is a reasonable time to produce content for them? Because you might decide to post 5 times a day, but that's not sustainable. So don't recommend that. But you might decide that, you could put together 1 blog per month, for instance, maybe 1 video per month. You might decide 2 times a week you're going to post on your LinkedIn profile, because keep in mind you've got all your other marketing to take care of. So, you might decide to post, maybe alternate 1 day on your Facebook page, 1 day on your LinkedIn page, maybe once a week through your profile, and then engaging with that content to give it more visibility. So I have a thinking about that. And while you've got all these different platforms, some of the content can be repurposed or reworded for the platform so it fits. So with your content, there are really 3 types of content you can share. Now, if your content can sort of tick all the boxes, then fantastic, but it's not always going to happen. So your content the purpose could be to educate your audience. So the how-tos, how to do things quickly, the little tutorials, the quick things that they can do. You might be looking to empower your audience, to get them to think differently. So that might be more inspirational, motivational content. And then you've got content that evokes emotion. Now the emotion could be entertainment. So it could be making people smile, making people laugh. You could be making people, think. You don't want to be making people sad unless it fits your brand. If you can do content that ticks all the 3, then fantastic, like I said, but it's not always going to happen. But educational content is probably the easiest to write, depending on your industry. Now, you might want to come up with a bit of a marketing plan. So I've got some templates, which I'll share following the webinar. I've got some resources online, so I'll share you the link along with the recording. So having a bit of a plan. Now, whether you keep a plan for the year or the quarter, think about your goals, because marketing really, it's all good and well to create content as part of your marketing, but it's got to serve a purpose for you as well as your audience. So you want to think about, what are your primary goals? Now, 3 is a good number. You might have more goals, but work out, might be 4 goals, maybe 1 goal per quarter, whatever it is. Now, you've probably heard of SMART goals, but having goals that are specific with some percentages or numbers or some metric you can measure and a date and whatever that goal looks like. So in this instance, we've got goal 1 to increase post engagement by 50% by 31st of March. So having content that ticks this box is, what kind of content is going to increase engagement? Well, it's the way it's written. It's the way it's delivered. Is it hitting the mark with your audience? So strategy 1 might be to publish 1 video post and 1 image post per week on LinkedIn. But then you're also, just sharing the image or video itself is not enough. It needs to have text with it. It needs to be formatted the right way and using frameworks, which I'm going to go through in the next session on producing content. Strategy 2, deliver a monthly webinar to your clients to reach that wider network. So content can be in many forms. It's not just about posting on your LinkedIn profile or page or your Facebook page or your Twitter account or your Instagram. It can be delivering a webinar. It can be, creating a video. It could be doing a live stream, having a Q&A session. So there's a lot of content you can do. Now, I mentioned about repurposing. So you might have an idea for your content and decide that that's going to be a post. But when you think bigger, it could actually be a post, absolutely, but it could be a blog, it could be a video. You could turn that into so many pieces of content, which helps you be productive. Now, so that's planning content. So I'll send you that template. So your first bit of homework is to actually have a think about, well, firstly, who your audience is, what problems they have, and then put in your goals and get clear about why you're doing this content, why you're marketing a business and what you're trying to achieve, so you can be really strategic about it. Now, content, there's 2 types. You've got content that you create, get my words right. So content you create, which is, you're starting from scratch, creating this content. You've also got content you can curate from other people or other sources. And that can be a bit of a time saver, particularly if you're just starting out or you're very busy. Now, content curation is found content, it's source content, it's other people's content that you're sharing. Now, there is a way to do it well, as opposed to not taking advantage. So I'll give you an example. So curated content, you might find a video on YouTube that's useful to your audience. Now, if you just share the video, you're promoting the other person, but you're not really promoting yourself. And what you want to do is share your thoughts with that video. Same with the blog post. If you share a blog post and you just go, great, read this sort of thing, instead tell me your insights into that post. What are your takeaways? Summarize it for me so I don't have to read the thing. Because often with curated content, you're using someone else's credibility or authority, or the fact that they've just created content that's useful, and you're putting your thoughts with it. So pros of curating content, obviously it's a less of a time investment. You've just got to source the content, put some thoughts with it. You're able to put your spin on it, your thoughts, and relate it back to your brand. You can provide value to your followers, and you're not needing to create all these graphics unless you really want to. And there are a lot of ideas out there. Now, the cons are it's not original. It's not your voice. You're not building that real intimate relationship with your audience. You're directing focus to their brand. You're putting the attention to them. So you could lose your audience potentially if it's the wrong person. But you also need to have an opinion. So just sharing a post or an article by itself without an opinion is not adding value. So yeah, what's your opinion? What is the thing missing from the article? What is the thing that's really important in the article that people really need to be aware of? And you've obviously got to spend a bit of time sifting through information, finding the good stuff. There are tools that do this for you, but if you're just automatically sharing people's stuff, you don't know if it matches your brand, if it's indeed correct. And of course, it's harder to promote your own brand when you're focusing on other people's content. But like I said, if you're time poor and you're just starting out, this is a nice way to get going, particularly if you haven't got a large audience right now. So maybe you're just starting out, maybe you've just set up your LinkedIn company page and you want to get going, but you haven't got many people following the page, then curating content could be the way to go. Now, content creation, so this is content that you create, it's authority building for your brand. It helps you build that brand voice. You content and curating it to their brand or their networks, and it's original. So it's your IP, which is, you know, great to build up that bank of IP. Now the cons, obviously, it's a lot more work to create your own content because you've got to put some time aside to write, to film, you know, to whatever, you know, to speak, whatever the content method is. You need to be a little bit vulnerable too, because if you're being quite robotic or corporate speaking, then that's not going to land as well with your audience. So you need to take time to find your voice and get comfortable being yourself so that people can relate to you and get to know you. So vulnerability is really important in content, which can be uncomfortable for people. But it's actually the quickest way to create content. If you're less worried about it being perfect and polished and just being yourself, then it's super easy, particularly if you're doing video on your phone. Now, it does take time because you want to put some effort together, but once you get into a flow, you'll find it becomes easy. It becomes something that's second nature. So, for instance, last week, I decided I wanted to create some videos. And while I was in that zone, I got my phone out. I've got a tripod on my desk. I don't know if you can see me through the camera still, if I'm still there, but I've got this little, it's a selfie stick that converts into a tripod. It's fantastic. I give these to my clients when I'm working with them. So I have that on my desk, set up my phone, and I just speak to my camera. So, and I'll say something very conversational. So I'm not going for perfection, and it might be a short 30-second video. Quickly top and tail, make sure that I'm not awkwardly reaching for the button. I cut that out. I cut the end. I always start with a smile because that just works well. So, and that's probably one of the tips. Remember to smile when you're speaking, particularly at the beginning and the end, so you can cut it. And then once I've cut that away, so I'm starting with a nice, you know, nice smile at the beginning and end, that's my content. And then I'm just going to write the text to go with it. So it can become quick when you do it. And then I'll create 5 or 6 videos at the same time while I'm thinking of ideas. Now, it comes down to having a plan of ideas too. Now, when you're creating your own content, you can run out of ideas unless you plan on do some brainstorming. And you have to be on in terms of, you always have to be creating unless you do it in batches. Now, you can outsource this, but it becomes costly, particularly if you're getting it right for your brand. So just have a think about that before you do outsource. So let's talk about themes and topics now. Now, what can you talk about? So if you are a dentist, for instance, what are the problems that you solve? I mean, obviously people come in with pain and you're solving that pain. People might come in with something cosmetic and they want it fixed. So think about the general issues that you're solving. So forget content right now. Think problems. Think, what do your customers come to you for? And sure, particularly if you're in services, professional services, you might be giving them advice. So you might be thinking, why would I write content about the advice I give? Because that's where the dollars are. That's what they're paying me for. But when you share your voice, when you share your expertise, it actually builds your brand. It builds your authority. And people don't necessarily want to do it themselves. They want to know who the expert is to help them. I mean, I do a lot of content about how to do things on LinkedIn. I'm doing it to help people because they're super quick things you could do. But essentially, I'm cutting myself out of the equation. But what I am doing is building my brand as an expert on LinkedIn. And that's what I've done over the last 11 or 12 years, just to build that brand authority. And if you've ever seen any of my content, people might just think that I've always been confident and I've always had a voice, but it took me a while to get comfortable with my voice. Like I said, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to be able to just own it. I used to make a lot of disclaimers. I'm not a LinkedIn expert because I don't have a qualification in LinkedIn. It doesn't exist, but it doesn't mean I'm not an expert at what I do. So it's just finding your voice, getting comfortable, working out what the problems are your clients have and solving those problems through content or demonstrating your expertise around those problems so that people come to you. So there's 2 ways to do this. You could do a bit of a brain dump about what are the core themes. As I said, with dentistry, it could be cosmetic, it could be pain, and then something else, maybe around a specific audience. Or you could start at the bottom, like on the ground, with the problems. How to floss without your gums bleeding, how to maintain good oral hygiene. That's probably a bit broad, but how to increase the longevity of your fillings, or how to avoid having fillings, how to, if you've got a pain, what to do, on a long weekend when the dentist's not open, things like that. So they're topics at the topic level. So you could brainstorm and come up with a massive list of problems that you could solve, and then group them into themes. So which ones, going to the dentistry idea, which ones of these are cosmetic related, which are health and pain management related, which are maintenance related. So then you might find your themes in your topics. So you can look at it either way. So the next bit of homework is to do a bit of a brain dump. Put some time aside, grab a cup of tea, and think about the problems you solve. Now, if you find that tricky, tee up with a colleague who knows your business, and maybe they're in business too, or even a friend or an ideal client who is someone that has the problems you have, and just brainstorm with them. That will help you find your content gold. And then you can put that into your plan. So here's a bit of a template for that. So you might do whatever you want to do. I like to do brainstorming, mind mapping. So I'll start with a theme in the middle, and then I'll branch off and put the topics. That's one way I like to do it. You might create a list. You might get some post-it notes and put one idea on a post-it note and then rearrange them into themes. Or you might use a spreadsheet like this sort of thing and just list them. So whatever works for you, as long as you're doing something. So I'll send you this through as well. Now, here's a couple of ideas for topics that are part of my Get Good or Get Off program, which goes with my book. So there's an online program you can buy, which covers 4 of the modules, and the last one is content. Content's massive. So we've got 101 content ideas, and these are just some of them. So just to get you thinking, tips on how to get the most out of your product or service if you've got one. If you've got special days, photos of the special days, and maybe telling the story of what your team are doing on those days. Milestone events like your 100th customer, your 1,000th follower, something else you've achieved, you're hitting a certain milestone. Top 5 uses of your product, photos of new staff. Have you had your car signed? Have you got a new sign? Have you got new premises? Have you updated your website? We'll share that. A quiz. Could you create a quiz to do with your industry? International Women's Day, something around that. Whatever else is coming up. I think today is World Ocean Day or something. So could you talk about that? Does it match your brand? Now, some things you might go, well, World Ocean Day, I have nothing, my business has nothing to do with the ocean. But maybe you love swimming in the ocean, and it could then be tying into, what do you like to do in your spare time? On World Ocean Day, I love to celebrate the fact that I love swimming in the ocean. Whatever it is, because people like to get to know you. So don't be afraid to step out from behind your brand. So let's go through the 7 steps of social content ideation. So as I mentioned before, think about your customer, your client. What's important to them and their business? What problems do they have? Then have a think about, well, what have you already got? Have you got some collateral? Have you got a website? Have you got blogs? Have you got brochures? There's probably some descriptions in there that, as part of selling your services, could that be turned into content? Could those things be turned into a top 5 list? 5 things to do list? Or maybe you've got as part of your marketing, the biggest mistakes that people make. Well, those biggest mistakes, each one of those points can be a post or even a blog or a video. So have a look at what you've already got. If you've already got blog content, fantastic. Well, how can we repurpose this into posts? Because that blog needs promoting. If you've already got videos, maybe you've already got a YouTube channel and you're sharing videos. Could that be turned into a blog? Could that then be turned into posts? So, and categorize your content into evergreen versus like in the moment content. So evergreen is the stuff that's long lasting. So if it's the top 5 ways to look good in a swimsuit, just coming up with things off the top of my head, that's something that's relevant anytime. So it's evergreen. Whereas content that's sort of in the moment is World Ocean Day, for instance. It's today, that's it. It's not relevant until next year at this time. Or it's an event that you're running now, or it's you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, it's tax time. Maybe there's been a tax change to the requirements and you want to talk about that. Well, that's a very much in the moment content. That's going to date fast, but you still want to share it. So keep in mind with content, is it, which of those is it? Because evergreen stuff you want to be repurposing, absolutely. Looking at the calendar for other dates, I mentioned World Ocean Day. Well, what else is there? I mean, there's some great tools to find these things. I subscribe to a tool called Way Video. It's a fantastic tool to create video content. And as part of being on their mailing list, they share every month. They release a content calendar that gives you ideas for creating video on their platforms. It's great, but as a free tool, that's a nice calendar to have because it can give you inspiration. And there are other tools that do that as well. So even looking at your actual calendar, because it often has those special days on there. And then creating your own formulas. Now, in my business, I've got a lot of formulas. I've got a content formula I'll be sharing in the next webinar in an hour that I've come up with, and I've got lots of others. But how can you create your own formulas or your own 4-step process, 7-step process, whatever that number is for you? And then create a draft of all these things and then fill in the gaps, but also look for the gaps, because when you start turning on this content side of your brain, you're gonna be energized and find more ideas because you'll see gaps in what's there. So some very specific examples now. So announcing a new staff member. So maybe you're growing your team. Now, if you're a very small business, it might just be you. So you might think, well, this is not relevant to me. But have you just got a dog? And you work from home, and technically your dog's part of your team. And people love animal photos and animal videos. So if you could, share that. When we got our dog, and I work from home too, my dog's called Linny. Well, it's actually my son's dog, but she hangs out with me a fair bit in my office. And I call Linny the Destroyer because you give her something and she just destroys it. She loves chewing up paper and stuff. So I had a video where she's got this paper and she's just ripping it apart. So that was a great video for social media. And then I can use that analogy for something to do with social media, LinkedIn, whatever it is. But the initial purpose is to show your human side. It's to show, there are more people in your office, whether they're animals. Now, if you've actually got a team of people, then welcome the person, because firstly, it's an opportunity just to be nice, to let people know who's part of your team. But you're also showing the expertise of that person as well. So it's definitely worthwhile. New features of products or services that you have. So for me, I teach LinkedIn primarily. So if LinkedIn has new features, that's great content. Now, it's hard to plan that sort of stuff, well, particularly because LinkedIn just don't announce these sorts of things. So that content fits in between my content. So if I've got evergreen type of content ideas, that might get moved in place of new features because it's almost breaking news. So what breaking news do you have in your industry? If there's a new way of doing something, a new massage technique, a new product that you've got as part of your product line. So if you sell skincare, maybe you've acquired a new particular product, or if you develop your own skincare, maybe you're just launching a new product, If you've got an app, does it have a new feature? Does it do something new? If you're a bookkeeper, do you have a new service that you're offering, or is there a new thing that people can claim? A new JobKeeper, version 5.0 or whatever, or a new thing. Anything new is great content sources. So you could create, like I said, a post about it, a blog about it, or it could even be a video about it. Now video can be fun, but also uncomfortable. And I used to really dislike video, but probably the easiest way to get started with video, and particularly if you're talking about a new feature or product, is to have someone interview you, or you interview someone else about the thing, because then it's just a conversation that you happen to be recording. So it's quite easy. Unpacking new products. So, have you just bought some new equipment? Because people love that. I don't know, unboxing videos. People love that sort of thing, just the excitement, particularly if you're filming that and speaking at the same time. Obviously, it needs to be fast enough pace to be interesting. So it could be unpacking, like I said, a product or service you've bought. No, service, you can't unpack a service, but, well, maybe you can. Actually, that'd be an interesting video. You could unpack, do almost an invisible thing or representation of a service, and speak about it as if the product was a service. Get creative with it. But you can also do an unpacking of your product. So you've just had something designed, you're launching something new, or maybe you've published a book. So when people publish their first book, particularly those unboxing videos when you get your first delivery, because it's pretty exciting. I'm pretty sure I did a video back in a couple of years ago now, but it's an exciting moment to see a box full of your book filled with your words. So sharing that excitement, because people love to be excited along with you, but they also want to know what you've got, what's in the box, sort of stuff. So, you can make it into a fun guessing game. So that's just a few ideas. So hopefully we've got you thinking. Now, if you're still stuck for ideas or you want to go bigger and wider, there's a few tools you can use. So the first tool I recommend is Quora, Quora. Now, Quora is a place where you can ask a question and get answers. But you could also go in there and answer other people's questions. So it's a fantastic tool for brand building. But in terms of content, if you type in, for instance, in this example, financial planning, and then you'll look at what questions have been asked in this area. So what is financial planning? How do I start my financial planning? What is called financial planning? How important is financial planning in your life? What are some of the biggest lies about retirement financial planning? So you could use this place as a source for inspiration. So if you look down the list and you look at this one, what are some good online financial planning tools for students? Well, that could be a great blog title. And you might know of a whole host of tools that are good for financial planning. So you could do the top 10 financial planning tools for students. So you do a bit of an intro, you have all the tools, then, list all the 10 tools, write a paragraph on each, maybe the pluses and the minuses for each, maybe the costs, what they do, how they work, then a conclusion, sum it up, and there's your blog or your article. So once again, repurposing, well, each of those tools could be a separate post on your social media, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn. So it could be tool of the day. You might decide to have a 10-part post process to promote each tool of the day, linking back to a blog that you've published on the topic. You could do a video. So it could be a video of the whole thing, or it could be small videos about each tool. Now, the video could be you talking to camera, but also it could be you doing a screen share. So each of the tools you've signed up, maybe you're already using them, or you've signed up for a sort of a trial account, and you do a screen share and you talk them through what's the benefits of this tool, what does it do, what are the limitations of the free version, when do you pay for this. So that could be a video. I mean, when you do video, if you keep them quite short and to the point, so each video could be self-contained. So then you've got 10 videos in this series, and then the last video might be you doing a bit of a summary. So here's the 10 tools. If you are in this situation, then this is, this tool or this tool might suit you. If you're in this situation, then, tool B and C, sort of thing. So you could add some more content on top of the reviews. So hopefully that's giving you some ideas about what you can do with content. And as I said, that's a great title there. What are some good online financial planning tools for students? Because someone's already asking it and people might be already searching for it. So that's Quora. So have a look in there, look for your area of interest and start looking into each topic. So, click in and see what are people saying about this, because it might give you, because you might see the question, depending on how creative thinking you are, and you might still think, I don't know what to say about that, but get inspiration from what other people are saying. So they're publicly posting their answers to the questions, and you might think, that's a good take on that. I've got my own version of that. So as long as you're not copying someone's content, but take inspiration, absolutely. Now, the other tool I love is Answer the Public. Now, Answer the Public, you go to the website and there's this guy sitting there in the background. And I love this. If you just for amusement, I would go there because he's waiting for you to ask a question, and he's obviously waiting without saying a word, sitting in the background of this landing page. So it's pretty funny. And there's, all you need to do is type in the thing that people are, you want to answer the questions about. So they've said here, example, chocolate, and then you'll get to look at lots of ideas about that topic. So we'll go back to the financial planning idea. So that's what I entered. So once you've entered it, you get this sort of circular diagram. Now you'll notice here that there's lots of questions here, but they're grouped. So you've got how, why, when, what, who, where, can, will, which, and are. So the questions start with that. So if we look at the who needs financial planning? Who is financial planning manager? The benefits from financial planning. And then you go, if we look across at how, how to control financial planning, how to explain financial planning, how to start financial planning in business. So this can give you ideas about the types of questions that you can answer. So you're not answering on this platform, you're using this for inspiration for your content, for your blogs, for your posts, for your videos. So this is a really good tool. And this one's completely free. So you've got here, you've got visualization and then data. So you can switch between the two to see which you prefer the look. And we've said financial planning, but there might be other words you could put in. So say you've done a bit of a content dump. Now, maybe you've got some themes that you want to write about, but you don't know what to write about. So you could type in your themes. So it could be financial planning, it could be wealth creation, wealth management, wealth protection, tax preparation, all these sorts of things that you could type in and then get ideas on those specific themes, if that makes sense. Another tool is this one here. It's called BuzzSumo. And you type, now this one is a paid tool, but there's a free version. So you type in financial planning. We're going to stick with the theme here. And it looks on the web for content. Now it's looking for things that already exist. These are things that are already published. So you'll see here, inside the industry, financial planning for OFWs with Lee, whatever her name is. I won't try and mess it up. And if we look across here, we can see what's being shared and where the engagement is. So this got a lot of engagement on Facebook, got 24 for Twitter shares. So that's the total engagement over there. So that might be a good topic based on the Facebook engagement. But it might be that this person's well known. It might be that she's an influencer, an authority in her space. So it depends on what it is. So you're looking for ideas here. Your annual financial planning checklist. So 4.2K, that's the engagement on Facebook. We've had a Twitter share here. So it might just be looking for an idea. Now you might have your take on this. You might decide to do your annual financial planning checklist for Australian business. Then you've got a more of a specific area, but it's just once again getting you thinking. And if you look at the top here, you've got web, YouTube, backlinks, so you can sort of have a look at different areas. But if you stick with the free version and just use it for looking for trends, what people are talking about, just to keep it quite simple. Now, just before I move on, I also wanted to mention Google. The other way to find content ideas is Googling things. So if you Google financial planning, then obviously you're going to get the search results for financial planning, which could be other people's blogs. So you might use that as inspiration, just like in this example. So if you see a natural existing blog or piece of content on that topic, then you might even have a quick look at it. What's missing from that article? What else could be said? Or does it trigger some ideas? So that's the actual search results. But if you go to the very bottom, Google has the, people also looked for. So it gives you spin-off topics to look for, a little bit like this, because you're looking at different aspects. So don't be afraid to look at Google as well. And the same applies to YouTube. If you actually go into YouTube, it's the search engine, type in financial planning, see what videos come up, and then look for ideas there. Is there a title that you could write about? So then you can have your own take on that. So that's just a few ways to get started. And then the final one, just as a side, is LinkedIn. So if you do a LinkedIn search for financial planning and select content as the filter, because initially when you do a search, it searches everything, such as people, companies, content, jobs, all those sorts of things. And if you select content, then you can just look at what content is being shared on that topic. And that might give you ideas for creating your own content. So going back to this, then that might help you then formulate your ideas for your plan. So whether you've done your brainstorm on Post-it notes and mind maps and whatever you've used, now you can put your themes together, because you might have not got your themes yet, but you might look for themes based on the topics. So you can put them into this plan here. But then you might want to put them into an actual plan with dates and that sort of thing. But let's talk about the types of content before we get into that. So I've mentioned the written word. So you've got blogs, posts, the text piece of the post, audio, so podcasts, any kind of audio related interview that you could use. You've got visuals, so your images, your infographics, and then video. Now, often when I'm working with clients, I'll ask them with content, do you prefer, and I'm talking in general, I'll ask people if they prefer to speak about something in a conversation in voice or write, because that helps you start, because if you're a person that likes to speak about it as in audibly, then you might decide just to talk about those particular topics, record yourself. Now, there's some great tools for doing this, including Word. So if you're using Microsoft Word, there's a dictate feature that captures word for word what you're saying. It's quite powerful. So you could actually just speak about a thing, Word just captures it, and then all you've got to do is tidy it up. So that's a really nice way of doing it. But if you prefer to write, like the process of writing you find much easier when you get into that zone, then start with, Word, if you're using Microsoft Word, and typing it out, or whatever tool you're using. So that might be the way you go. If you're more big picture thinking, you might start with a visual. So you might have an idea for a concept. You might take a photo of something. You might create a graphic about something, and then the content will come from that. So you could start with the photo, and then write the description about that particular concept afterwards. Or you might do it in the flip side. You've got your content, you've written your content, and then you find an image to go with that to represent it. So you've got both ways of doing that. And video, as I mentioned, there's so many types of video. You can be doing a sort of piece to camera where you've got your phone on your little tripod and you speak to camera. Generally film in landscape, depending on where you're going to be publishing it. But if you're publishing on LinkedIn, film in landscape rather than portrait, because portrait can look a bit weird on LinkedIn in the feed. So that's piece to camera. You might do a voiceover, so you might create a slide deck. Similar to what I'm doing now, actually. When you run a webinar, you've got your slide deck, you're doing voiceover. Now you might be able to see me, or you might choose not to when you create your content. So you could just do voiceover. So I do a lot of that type of content, particularly if I'm talking about a concept. And I had a session last week where I recorded about 5 different videos from a presentation I was giving, but one of the slides, I could talk to that slide, and that was enough for a 30-second video. So that can be a piece of content then. Then you've got demonstration type videos where you're running something and you're doing a screen share. Now, a great tool to do these sorts of videos is Zoom. If you've got it, everybody's using Zoom at the moment. So if I'm teaching LinkedIn, I run a meeting with myself on Zoom. I screen share that particular window or that tab or the browser, and then talk through the demonstration. Click here, do this, do that. Now you can, like I said, you can choose to be on camera as well, so that can sit in the corner, or you can have your camera off and just record what's on the screen. So Zoom's a great tool. And then you've got other tools like Loom. Loom's a great tool. It's got a free version, and there's so many different tools for video. But yeah, don't let the fact of being on camera scare you off with video, because there's a lot you can do. I also create a lot of video on my phone. So on my phone, I use an app, let me just go to it, called Quick, Q-U-I-K. I'll bring in photos. So if you take a lot of photos, and I take a lot for this purpose. Now, if you're using an iPhone, and I'm sure Google phones do this too, and Android phones, when you take a photo and it's in the live setting, you've got movement, and you can choose which frame you want to have as a feature frame. But when you bring a live photo into a video editing app, it's got movement. So a good example here. So I did a triathlon a few months ago, and my husband came along at the crack of dawn and took lots of photos on his phone for me. So he had all those key moments where I was transitioning from bike to running to cycling, all those sorts of things. I didn't have any video though, but I've actually got a video because he took so many and they were in live. I could piece them together. So I just added them into the app Quick, and it's a moving video. So that's a bit of a tip. I mean, iPhone, but I'm sure there are other other things with other Android phones. That's just one tool. I mean, there's so many different editing apps, but that's just one I like because it's easy to use. Right, so that's the types of content. So either start with writing or start with speaking. Now, if you're starting with speaking, as I said, dictate, and there's so many different dictate apps you could use, or you could start with video. Now, what you might be going, well, why would I do that? Because I'm not going to put that video out there, but the intention is just to capture your voice. But sometimes video can just be easy to do. So you set your phone up, or you've got a Zoom meeting with yourself and you're capturing video, but then you're going to take the audio part of that and transcribe it or do something with it. Or maybe give it to a virtual assistant and get them to summarize what you said. I've done that before as well. So yeah, that's the way to go. So that's content. Now, images. Let's talk about images. So you've got different types of images you can use. And I've mentioned some already. So you can just use stock images. Now, whether you're using stock images from purchased ones like Shutterstock, Deposit Photos, iStock, there's Getty Images, there's a whole range of them and a range of prices. I use Deposit Photos and I've got, I think I've got I bought 100 credits and I just go there and use them as I need to. But the danger of stock images is other people use them. So this photo in the middle is a stock image, and you might find that another business uses that identical image, and then you've got that sort of brand crossover. So just be really careful using stock images. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm just saying avoid using them in their natural state. Now, if you're using actually, I'll come back to that because I want to talk about your images first. So that's stock images. So there's paid stock images, there's free stock images. Now, the free stock images are more likely to be used by other people because they're free, so the volume is going to be higher. So just keep that in mind. Then you've got images you create. Or you take, and this is why I say take lots of photos when you're out and about. If I was out at the beach yesterday for a walk, I took lots of photos of the beach. I got my husband to take some photos with me in as well, because with some negative space. So there's me and there's the beach there, because I might want to use that with some text over an overlay or something else. So create your own bank of stock images, particularly with you in it, because that's your brand. Then you've got created graphics. So the top right, the red one here, this is a created graphic. It was created in Canva, but it's not a photo. It's just text on an image. It's got some parts that move as well. Like it could be, well, I say move, it could be a video, but in this case, it's just a video. So elements are the feature in Canva that you put on top. So that's a created graphic. Now, the created graphic could also be a combination of stock images, like this one here for one of my clients. So it's a graphic I've created from scratch. I've used his brand colors. There's the logo, but I've used this stock image, which I've knocked out the background, which is a feature of Canva, which I love, fantastic, to kind of make the point. So this is how to use stock images in a way that's branded, because it's a combination of the stock image, the brand colors, the brand logo, the fonts, and it's created something a bit more unique. Now, going back to this one at the top here, if we wanted to use this in a sense of brand, rather than doing this, I mean, we could knock out the background and have just the silhouettes. But it's got the sun in, and the sun, and that might be important for the message. So what you might do is change the color. So you might say it was for this brand here, I might get this purple, put a purple rectangle over the top in Canva and drop the opacity down so you can see through it slightly. So it's got that purple overlay. And then I might put the logo in the corner. I might put some words down the bottom, like a question or a statement. So that way you're taking a stock image and making it your own. Now with stock images, as I said, there's all those different sites you can get them from, whether they're free or whether they're paid. But if you use a tool like Canva, and Canva has a free version and a paid version, there is stock images available through the platform. So when you're using the free version, or even if you use the paid version, you've got access to free stock images, which taps into some of the free image libraries. Like you've got things like Pixabay and Pexel and what's the other ones? There's quite a few of them. So it pulls in images from some of these free resource libraries. But when you use Canva Pro, which is not that expensive, you've got access to a wider library of stock images. So they're paid features, but it's part of your pro licensing. So once again, bring them in, make them your own, knock out the background, do something different to the image and make it branded. And finally, the other type of image is screen captures. So I do a lot of those. If I'm sharing something new on LinkedIn, I'm going to take a screen capture on my Mac, and then I'm going to share that. It might be, to show the new placement of a particular image, or to show a post or something like that. So if I'm talking about post structure, and you'll see it actually, if you're attending my next workshop, I've actually got some screen captures of LinkedIn to show how, to put this in action. So I've got one where it's a screen capture of the starting a post on LinkedIn. And in the actual post, I've actually got my framework for writing a post, which I never intended to post as it is, because it wasn't for a post, but for an image, that was great. So I sort of made it, knocked it up, took a screen capture, then put that into my content. So if you're working in a particular area, you can, you might want to, particularly the tech space, and screen captures can be good. But if you're launching a new website, screen capture your new website landing page and share that as your post to attract people to come to your page. So I mentioned Canva, fantastic tool. I use it pretty much every day. Actually, this lady here in this photo, Marianne Rom, she's one of the Canva trainers on this program. She was one of the beta testers, so I've learned quite a lot from her. So if you want to learn about Canva, I would look her up on the program and book a session with her or some training with her. But it's such a good tool, and it's growing all the time. And I really love the fact that it was one of the founders is from Perth, so it's an Australian tool, so it's good to support. And you'll see here's that image there I showed as a graphic. And you can see use of images. So this one here, this photo, this background is actually some street art. I had a photo shoot and that's where it was. So I used it as is. But in this case, these two images are completely separate, knocked out the background, put them together to promote an event that we're doing together. So you can do a lot with them. There's some great templates inbuilt. So this one here is a template. This background is a template. Templates are great because it saves you thinking. You don't have to be creative because it's already done for you. But just once again, keep in mind that other people use these templates. So in this case, this is a template. Actually, these two I think are a very similar template. Got the same shapes in the background. But in this case, I've changed the colors to my brand color. So my brand orange and my brand red. And same with these ones here. I've made up my brand. So there's that recognition. So going back to your audience. So where are your audience? Are they on, are you communicating to them through email? Are they on Google looking for you? Are they on YouTube looking for you? Are they on social media and LinkedIn? So, and possibly they're on all those places, but it's working out where your content can slide in and get in front of them to be seen. So I'm a LinkedIn specialist, but I do talk about content and social media in general, but you don't want to rely on just one thing. If you can see them in different places, and this is why email marketing is still important, because your email list you've got more control over, but they're seeing you in their inbox, they're seeing you on LinkedIn, they're seeing you in Google, hopefully if you've got good SEO and you're being found. So repurposing, I'll just talk a little bit about that, some techniques. So I've already mentioned a few, but this is just to pull it together. So if you've got a blog post, you could turn it into a range of tips, like post different tips or videos about each tip. If you've got a podcast or you've been interviewed on someone else's podcast, that could be a post with the link. Maybe it's a post with a graphic of the podcast or a photo of something. Or if in the podcast interview you shared your 3 key tips, well, that's potentially 3 posts linking back to the podcast for credibility. Same with video. Now, if you've got a video that you've shared, you could cut that into smaller video for posts, like really small, snappy segments. Or it could be a photo, a screenshot of the video. And I do that a lot with a video series I run called The Connection Couch. We talk about LinkedIn generally, and so I'll create I'll do a screenshot where we're pulling a stupid face, and then I'll use that to promote the episode. So you can do a lot of video. Now, of course, video you can, if say it's posted on YouTube, you could do small videos for your social media, for LinkedIn, for Facebook, or whatever. You might do a vertical version for TikTok. You might do it for your stories. LinkedIn has stories too. So it all depends on what you're trying to do. Testimonials. Now, this is a great place to repurpose content you've already got, because it's social proof. if people have given you a LinkedIn recommendation, take those words, turn it into a graphic, into a post, maybe a photo of the person, could be their LinkedIn profile headshot, what they've said about you, because that's content that is out there already. It's already public, and you could in the post you could link to that person's profile, because the testimonial shows up, or the recommendation I should say, on your profile and theirs. So, and you could, if you've got lots of testimonials, you could turn them into a slide deck and make it into a video. So slides for presentations. So I could take this entire slide deck and turn it into a video, which I actually do, not to share on social, but then that's more for my vault of content. But you could take a couple of slides and talk through them. You could export all your slides as images. So PowerPoint does that and other tools. And incidentally, Canva is another place to do your slides. You can do a whole slide deck in Canva and present from there as well. You could export it as a video. You could export all the individual images. And then if you've got a 24 deck slide, you've got 24 potential posts. Awesome. You could turn your content into ebooks, PDFs, which could be downloadable links. They could be short blog posts, or in LinkedIn, there's a thing called document posts. So if you've got a short ebook, you download it as a PDF, you do a post, upload the PDF there. So it's directly available. Or it could be behind like a wall, a filter, where people have to put their details in, and you're going to send it to them. It could be part of your list building strategy. And of course, frequently answered questions, or frequently asked questions, even Q&As. What are people asking you? Answer the questions. Answer questions on Facebook Live. Download that live, create the video, turn it somewhere else. Answer the questions on a quick native video you're going to post online, or answer the questions in a blog post, or look at the questions and think that would make a fun quiz. Turn it into a quiz. You've got LinkedIn polls. There's your instant quiz tool straight away, but there are other apps that do quizzes as well. So there's so much you can do with repurposing your content. So going back to having a plan, because it's all about the plan. So one thing I've been doing, and this is actually the start of when I started planning earlier this year. So I decided to have a theme each month to keep my content simple. So January, I would give it a theme, and then the theme would have one blog, 2 videos. And then my LinkedIn page would have 2 posts a week. In this example, maybe two posts a week on Facebook. There'd be an email going out through MailChimp. So work out what your cadence looks like, but start as you can continue. So don't get too excited. Keep it manageable. So you might be going, LinkedIn, 2 posts a week. That's not much. I can do that, because you don't have to post every day, as long as you're doing it on a regular basis. And there are ways to improve your reach and engagement as well, which I go through in my LinkedIn networking workshops. So look out for those. But so this is just one example. This is not what you should do necessarily, but this is just one way of doing it, having a theme per month. Or you might have a theme per week, and every month those 4 themes repeat. So week 1 is your theme 1, week 2 theme 2, for example. So in this example, I've got this is an overarching plan. So content type, what am I sharing during the month? What are the topics I'm going to be sharing? So I might then list the topics that relate to that particular theme. And then also, because we're in business, what am I promoting? Because it's all good and well creating content, but why am I sharing content? So, it could be a soft promotion, because when you share content, it can be adding value, it can be educating, as I said. But some of your content, you want to have a link to a call to action. So you might be linking to a particular product that you're featuring, a service that you've got, or an event that's coming up. Or maybe you're running a webinar. So to wrap things up, have a think. There's a lot to think about, but brainstorm your topics and themes. Create yourself a content plan, because you want to have a bit of a plan to get going. And you could decide to do it, spend June planning for July, and do a plan for the next half of the year, or the next quarter, or the next month, whatever feels right for you. But if you get a lot of content, then you might be able to plan 6 months out. And then all you got to do is, then you've got to put the time aside to create. So create your plan, you've got it there. Then you haven't got to think. It just saves you so much time. And if you do outsource, so you've got a virtual assistant, a marketing person that works with you, an intern, whatever, if you've got this plan, you've got something to give to them, and then they can help you create that content, because you don't have to create all the content. You just have to have the ideas because it's your brand. So this is a thought I want to leave you with your content. Talk with rather than at your network. So always aim to start a conversation with your content, because if you're just doing a bit of a content, here's how to do something and that's it, tie a bow on it, all done, you're not necessarily engaging your audience. You're giving some great value and they might really appreciate your content. They might go and take action, but you want to engage them. So always think about, how can you talk with them? How can you include them? How can you use your customers and clients and prospects and network in your content? Can you interview them? Can you ask them questions? Can you involve them? Can you introduce them to your network? Can you talk about them that way? Has a colleague released a book? Has your business coach got an upcoming webinar that you can talk about, or maybe you've attended it and there was something you could take that would be useful for your clients and customers too. So for help with your small business, obviously this webinar is part of this program. So webinars are completely free, as you would have discovered. They run for an hour. Then we've got workshops, which are 2 hours and $20 plus booking fee. So as I said, I've got one at 12:30 today, which is about how to actually publish on LinkedIn. So if you haven't booked that and you're really interested and you're free this Arvo, then book in. You can definitely book. And if you struggle, just let me know. And if you're really interested, but you can't attend at that time slot, it starts at 12:30 p.m. Western time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. If that doesn't work for you, I do record it and I make it available. So you can book and I can give you the recording access anyway. So that's all good. Same with webinars, they're recorded too. So if you can't make the time live, it's recorded, you'll get it. Then you've got one-on-one advisory sessions, which are generally via Zoom, unless you're in the same location as me. And I mean, on the rare occasion I do face-to-face, but it has to be certain times. But generally they're via Zoom, because that way it's much easier. We don't have to travel and park and all that sort of stuff. So those sessions are $66, $44 if it's your first session. Now, if you've never used the program, it's completely free, but you're all on this program, so you would have booked for this webinar. So do tell your colleagues about it, because this program has an expiry and it's been extended for a couple of months. So make sure you let other small businesses know that they've got access to this program, so you can get access to me and talk to me about any of these sort of topics. LinkedIn's what I'm known for. It's my expertise, content as well, positioning. Talk to me about Twitter, talk to me about webinars, about I've got a particular CRM I use, social media scheduling. I'm not sure if you can see my jacket, Agora Pulse. I'm one of their brand ambassadors. That's a brilliant social media scheduling tool as well. And I'm probably going to run a webinar on it. So look out for that. But if I'm not the person to help, there's many other people who are experts. I mentioned Marianne, who's a Canva expert. We've got Reg Sorrell, video expert. There's so many people with different expertise. So yeah, that's the information of the sessions. Go to businessstation.com.au or log into your account and look that way as well. And just to finish off, you're very welcome to connect to me. Here's my details. But if you're booked in for the next session, it's in half an hour, so I'll see you back here. Hopefully I'm going to sort out my tech issues by then. Yeah, so that's good. Now I'm just going to quickly check the chat, because I'm just conscious of time. Great. So there's all good. That's great. Excellent. So thank you very, very much for attending today, and good luck with your content. Drop me a message through whether email, joe@wildfiresm.com, or drop me a message through LinkedIn and let me know when you publish the first thing on LinkedIn, because I love that. I love to celebrate with you. So thank you very much for attending, and I will see you at another session.